Hi there, and welcome to another episode of RIA Collective. My name is Charlie Van Derven. I'm your host for the next 30 or so minutes. We got a great guest today. I'm excited to get to know Juan Munoz a bit. Juan's in Cypress, Texas. His RIA is Life Strategy Financial, and so we're gonna dive deep into Juan's story and what drew him to independence, and hopefully I've met Juan a couple of times now, so I know Juan's going to drop some dimes of wisdom on us and our listening audience that are thinking about making that same type of move. So Juan, welcome to you, man. Thank you for joining me on RIA Collective.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, man. I checked out your profile on LinkedIn and I was like, this guy's got some experience. There's got to be some wisdom underneath all that.
It's a lot of trial and error, to be honest with you. I didn't get to where I'm at just from one day to another. So it's a lot of learning experience that helped me get here. And I think it's at some point in time we all kind of had to earn our stripes, right? We all had to kind of work for someone, learn from somebody, and that's the only way to get to where we want to be.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. So I was with a couple of firms in the industry before starting, well, my company. This is RA Collective, my company, Social Advisors. We started that 9 years ago. But I was with FMG Suite prior to that, and then a company called 50 Below that was spun up through, anyway, some people remember these names. I don't know how many people will, but it was spun up through Emerald Connect and is now part of Broadridge. So I agree with you. There's things that I take out of those experiences, like these guys did a great job with team building or camaraderie or go to market or whatever it might be. And then there's things that I take out of it that were, experiences that were negative that I learned from that hopefully helps me avoid pitfalls in the future as well.
Correct, correct. And I learned also, like, even from prior to joining the financial industry. So I worked in retail, and there was just a lot of things that were going on. I don't know if you remember Circuit City back in the
Yeah.
day was the number one giant. I was working there
Yeah.
where Best Buy took over, and Best Buy was number one, and Circuit City was hurting, and they went from commission to hourly. And I saw how they had to lay off all those great employees because the ones that were doing good, the ones that were making the good commissions, they had to be laid off because the pay was just too much.
Yeah.
And I saw that process, and I think to me it was like, nothing against big companies, but big companies look for themselves. And I felt like, I always look for my employees. I always look for the people that I work with. And sure enough, that's it translates to I want to help the people that I can, and not necessarily help a company. So
I feel you.
there's some other things that I learned through other, not necessarily financial services, but my other experience.
Yeah, no doubt. And I here, interestingly, I just got done reading Good to Great. Gosh, the dog is up here and I don't know what he's barking. Let's out a little pet. That's all right. Adds to like the moment of our interview, I guess.
Yep.
I just got done reading Good to Great audio this time for, I don't know, the second or third time. And Circuit City, of course, is one of their darlings in that book, right?
Hmm.
And I'm listening to this thinking that book was published in '01 or '02, and how right at that time, like those companies, a lot of those companies fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
Walgreens was another one of their darlings,
Hmm.
right? And for those of you who either haven't read, or you can let the cat come in too. For those of you who haven't read or so Good to Great is 15. They studied publicly traded companies because there's a ton of data, and it was 15 years prior to a pivot moment. So they kind of, stumbled along market norms, hit a pivot moment, and then far exceeded market norms for another period of 15 years. And so Circuit City, right when they're writing this book, had done an amazing job. And then Best Buy takes over, right?
Yeah.
And of course, retail gets hurt by the internet in a huge way. And so it was funny to watch like that pivot moment where those people did well, but I'm waiting for the next book where it's like, okay, and here's what happened to those companies because Walgreens in the same books, right?
Yeah.
CVS just ran them over. So it's interesting. You bring that into the conversation. Well, that's not necessarily what we're talking about today, but as I just read that book, I was like, yeah, and they were the darlings. And then look what happened, right? Um, One thing you said to me, and this along the lines when we were getting acquainted a few weeks ago, one of the things you said to me is, I don't want to make a firm stronger, right? I'm here to make people stronger.
Correct.
And maybe that's our working title as we're talking about it. But that strikes me. That's such a pure situation, and it really speaks to that move from that captive wirehouse environment into a more independent environment. Let's talk about that a little bit. So you got AIG in your background.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so you
Yeah.
come out.
So I was there in 2008 when the whole mess was going on, and I was actually on the phones the very first day that we saw AIG on the news, and people were calling in talking about their accounts, nurses, teachers, concerned. They wanted to pull out, they wanted to move their accounts, and it was about talking to them about how where was AIG status and what was going on, and try to calm them down. I think the most important lesson there, it was not necessarily you know talk to them off the cliff, but talk to them and more like listening and listening what was really the concern, the true pain they were going through, and explaining what's going on. I mean, in a lot of situations, we have seen companies like Enron, right, that they gone bankrupt and people lose their savings. And this situation almost looked a little bit similar, but obviously they're in accounts, they're in different types of investments, so it wasn't as urgent as people were going to lose their money, but you still need to explain and listen to them, and try to calm them down. And that's one of the factors that I loved. It was a little bit more of the behavior finance that we don't talk much about, but we get to experience it, right? We hear people telling us we all want to do better, we all want to save, we all want to, be millionaires, but there's other things going on, right? And I think that's what I really enjoy the most, listening and truly uncovering what is holding them back and helping them overcome that. But yeah, AIG was a big learning experience as well. And it also taught me a big lesson that companies sometimes they just look for themselves. I think as I continue my path from AIG to SagePoint to Raymond James, now to being independent, I learned that the smaller I was getting, the better I could engage with my clients, taking all the other factors out of the picture when it came to companies and products and all the stuff, right? So for me was remove commissions, that's why I'm fee only, remove companies that are telling you they have quotas or they have certain needs, right? Remove all obstacles that really allow for me to have a non-conflicting, relationship with a client where I can truly help them, and it's not about selling them something, or it's not about, pushing something onto them that they don't want. So that was a big learning experience, especially that I have had this last 10, 15 years of my life, having to adjust from big company to now being independent. And I
Yeah.
really love the fact that being independent, I would tell anybody it's totally worth it. But being independent, it's you have more flexibility to do more for your clients, you have more flexibility to spend the time, learn the clients. So to me, it's when you're big companies, it's all about numbers.
It
It's
is. Yeah.
I don't know if you read the book Game of Numbers,
I have
but
it.
if you read that book Game of Numbers, it's all about how many people you can talk to, how many people you can touch, how many people you can connect with. And now it's like I don't need to connect with everybody. I just need to
Yep.
connect to people that truly need help and focus on them, instead of trying to find 20, 30, 40, 50 people all at one
Man,
time, right?
man, do I love that. You said a mouthful, Juan. Wow. Um, so what so I'm sitting at this park and people are cruising by, and this lady's singing. I love it. Like it's so late, it's just rolling by. But what you've been, first off, what an amazing story. What an amazing sentiment, right? I've really, over the time of doing, of broadcasting RIA Collective, and leading up to that also, because I worked in the wirehouse environment and then with independent broker dealers more than anything else. So RIA is kind of new to me, really, as it is to a lot of people, I think, because that move is happening a lot more quickly. So I feel like I was touching in that world when I was working with a lot of independent broker dealer advisors.
Mhm.
And we'd certainly pepper in some IARs there. Um, and so I would say, Juan, in the time of doing this, I've identified really 5 reasons that people make the move, right?
Mhm.
And yours is purely, and I love this, right, is fiduciary. Um, Now you mentioned the word flexibility in there as well, like flexibility of schedule, but also, and that's how I kind of think of it, flexibility of offering as well. Like depending on where somebody is in their life and what their needs are, you've got flexibility as to what you can provide as an IAR, as an RIA, versus, cookie cutter portfolio management, if you will.
Correct, correct. And that's I always like that aspect that, it started first, it was like all investments, or well, actually it started more with products. Products, investments, a little bit more financial planning. And it's, I kept going, obviously passing the CFP 7, 8 years ago,
Yeah.
opened my world of, now we're looking at holistic level, right? We're not
Love
looking
it.
at just investments. Let's look at retirement, estate planning, risk management, everything else, from simple things. It's funny because a lot of advisors don't focus on certain things that are so essential, like budgeting or looking at
Right.
auto and home insurance, and it's just needed to. I mean, those things can be just as important as having, those big portfolios.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's allowed me to be more holistic, more well-rounded when it comes to the financial planning. It's not just, yeah, I can do portfolio management all day long, but I really enjoy actually the other stuff as well.
Yeah. Well, it get a little more interpersonal.
Mhm.
Which something I noticed about you is not only is your financial career important to you, but your community is pretty important to you also. You
Yeah,
got
so yeah, I was part of the Financial Plan Association of Houston. Well, thankfully, I still am. I'm rolling off of December as the chairman.
okay.
Yeah, one of my colleagues, good friend Adam from University of Texas Tech, that's where I graduated. He was the incoming president. He needed a treasurer, so he put an email out, and it caught my attention. And I decided to join the board, and 2 years later, I became the president. And one of the things that being part of the board that a lot of people as members of the FPA don't see is, from the board, you become a very close, tight friendship community, and they help each other. You help each other. I think, to me, the starting of me becoming independent started there.
Cool.
I met this girl called Jennifer Pritchard. She was a virtual power planner at the time,
Awesome.
for the XYMPN
Yeah.
network.
XY planning.
And yeah, and then I asked her, I was talking to her, and she was telling me all the stuff that she did and with the advisors that she worked with. And I asked her, hey, can you connect me with some of the advisors? Let me talk to them how they're doing, right?
Cool.
And
Yeah.
sure enough, I talked to a couple of people, and they're like 24, 25-year-olds, successful, some of them traveling the world. I was like, man, if they can do it, I certainly can do it as well. It's like, I just need to figure out how to do it, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I started getting curious about going independent. And then actually, in purpose, I did like 20 some interviews. I was like, okay, I'm going to interview, see what best fits me, right?
Yeah.
So I took that as a learning experience, not because I was looking for a job. So yeah, if something good would have came up, obviously I would have gone for it, but I was kind of more for learning, like, okay, what do those people do? How does people work? How they've been successful? And at the end of the 20, I think it was 23 interviews, I decided that, you know what, the best thing for me, I don't know what's good for everybody, but for me was to become independent.
Yeah.
Um, I'm self-motivated. I know what I want to help clients. It was just a matter of, I just needed to hear the experience from other people for me to get brave enough to actually do it. And that's why I always welcome phone calls from people
Cool.
from the University of Houston, all the students. I go to the career fair, the FPA of Houston, and they'll come to me, and they ask me questions. And sometimes they make me feel like really, really old. They're like, yes, sir, how you did this? And I'm like, I'm not that old.
Yeah.
Uh, but
I
people
feel that
from,
more and more.
yeah, it's students from Texas A&M. They reach out to me. I think there was one that asked me to do a seminar, so I did a seminar for them.
Cool.
So I welcome, and random people from LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
including yourself. They find me,
Myself.
they're like,
Yeah.
hey, can I talk to you? Can I find out
Yeah.
what's going on? How are you doing it? So I
Yeah.
always welcome those. I think it's a way for me to pay back, right? That other
That's
people
right.
help me, why not help others? But that was really the start of me. My community, actually, my local community is what helped me. And I made some really great relationships on FBA as well. So not
Awesome.
just local level, but national level. And I just have a question, I need something. I grab the phone and they pick up the
Right on.
phone. They don't hold back and they're like, they talk to me and they help me or they just talk to me. Sometimes just about talking, right?
That's awesome.
Um, so that's something that I will cherish forever. And I kind of hate rolling off the board, but it's time for me to dedicate a little bit more time to my clients and my business, right?
That's it. That's it. And we'll get your contact information before we wrap up here because, I'd love for, if you're open to it, I'd love for you to be a resource to our listeners. Maybe it's that young person who's in an environment like you were at AIG or even the retail experience that, they're making a firm richer and, their take home and their payout gets lesser and lesser and their flexibility is whether it's lifestyle or product. So we'll get your contact info before we wrap.
Yep.
A couple of things that really, you're a very thoughtful guy, right? You said self-motivated. One word I was thinking of when you talked about the interviews you were doing is you're incredibly thoughtful, right? A lot of us
Mhm.
move too quickly. Maybe we don't aim, right? And you are thoughtful about your next step, it seems like. So I want to tap into that thoughtfulness a little bit. Number
You got
one,
me.
yeah, yeah. But number one, as you look back, right? Because you've had several steps between AIG and where you are now with Life Strategy Financial, right? So
Correct.
as you think about those moves that you made, the decisions you made along the way, is there anything that stands out? We're going to start with the negative, okay? I don't like to do this too much, but hoping that our listeners are avoiding pitfalls. Is there anything in particular you did that you were like, gosh, I wish I'd have done that differently?
Uh, yes. One of the things that happened to me is obviously when I went to college, I had to pay for my tuition, right, for my living
Sure.
expenses. So I had to work, and the easiest job for me to get was retail at the time, and actually did good for got to management in retail. But when I graduated, nobody wanted to hire me because they saw my experience was not there, and they saw that everybody wanted for me to sit for sales because
Yeah.
they think retail is sales. And I honestly wanted to work more for like the smaller boutique that focuses on financial planning. And unfortunately, I couldn't get those jobs. So I had to start the rough way. I had to start that, okay, fine, let's go to sales, and I'll take this as a learning experience. I took it as, even though like right now I don't sell products, I technically do have to sell me. I have to sell my service, right, to them. So I take that as we all sell something in our life, whether it's our story, our why, what we do. So that was one of the things that I kind of wish I would have more experience. It's I could have started maybe a little bit earlier
Yeah.
in the right track. That was one of the things. Another one that you're probably gonna like is so after AIG, I worked at Sage Point and Raymond James. So I worked for smaller firms, and I worked basically for someone. And one of the things that I learned through there, yes, it was beneficial for me to learn and to experience how other people worked. But at the end of the day, they only look for their family or for their best, for themselves, right? And I felt like while they sell you that they're gonna take care of you and help you grow and help you succeed, at the end of the day, unfortunately, people will take care of themselves first. People will take care of
Yeah.
their families, and especially with Raymond James, that the last job, it was about the father taking care of their kids, and
Yep.
obviously he's gonna give preference to the kids.
Yep.
And I learned that I'm not their family, and I need to take my family.
Take
So
care of
the only
you.
way I can do it is being the one in charge, or being the one that has the decision making of what to do with the company, right? So that's why I decided to go independent. This is a great learning experience that I feel like a lot of people that work for other companies that they feel like man, they could lay me off anytime because they may not need me, or man, they're not helping me, or they want me to get certain amount of sales. I think it's, while it's valuable to experience it, it's also valuable to know that that's not really how it needs to be. Uh,
Love that.
you can
It's not
go
how it needs to be.
independent. You can go independent, work for yourself, have that liberty of you taking care of yourself and your, especially your clients. They're your clients. I felt after a while that, I had so many clients I need to bring in a year, that after a while, it's like, I can't keep up with even my clients, because it's a volume,
Right.
career,
I
instead of a quality, and pay attention to my client's career. So that's another thing too, that I sort of kind of wish I knew that ahead of time.
yeah,
But I
I
do
love the
take the I
I
do
love the
take the
one.
fact that I learned from that as well. So
Yeah, right. I mean, obviously, we're all on a path, but I love the one about, you knew where you were headed after college, but you still took a retail job and were successful with it, but it didn't set you up for immediate success getting out of college. I think that's great,
yeah.
right? Because
Well,
we might,
actually, I did left retail to go to Valak, but they wanted me for sales. Remember?
yeah. Oh, gotcha. Right,
Yeah,
right, right.
yeah,
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 yeah. So yeah, it just didn't set you down the course that you were looking
yeah,
for in the
yeah.
long term. But again, being thoughtful, we'll do this for a while until we can transition. And I think working in those firms, right, if they're going to be selfish, you can be selfish too, right? I mean, I think it's a great learning experience. You've got access to a lot of resources that you can draw from, or leverage in your growth, whether that's professional skill sets, right? Anyway, so I think that there's a lot that if they're going to be selfish, you can certainly draw from be selfish on what they're able to provide because of their breadth. Now, the flip side of that negative question is, what would you change? It's not necessarily negative, but looking back, the flip side of that is, what are some of the things, that you've done, one or two things that you've done, you're like, this is one of the most important things I did in making this transition to independence, successful for you.
I think I kind of already said it. I think talking to people was important for me. Talking to different people that do different things, or set up different things. But you call it earlier as well. I'm a planner, not just financial planner, but I'm a planner from when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
Everybody would tell me, it's like, Juan, your drawers are so organized, your room's always so organized. It's like you're so organized with everything. It's like, don't let it fool you. I'm not super organized, but I do like to plan things. I like things that are in order, things that I like to look forward and kind of plan, or look up for outlooks that I want to achieve. So I think that the biggest thing that helped me going independent was the planning ahead of doing that. It took me probably about a year and a half to really commit to actually, from committing to happening. And it went from planning the logo of the company, from
Yeah.
the software, from by the time I got to the point that I was ready to launch, I had everything ready to go. So planning for me was essential. And I'm one of those people that I don't like to take steps forward if I don't feel comfortable, if I don't know where I'm heading, and I wanted to know, how's it going to look like, what's it going to look like. Yes, you still kind of, when you go independent, you still are afraid. You don't know what's going to happen. There's still a level of security. How many clients? How am I going to survive? And
Yep.
at the end of the day, I think I did such a great job with my clients that some of them follow me. That helped me, skyrocket right away where I needed to be. But I know it's scary to launch it first, because you don't know how you're going to make it, how you're going to find clients.
Yeah.
Expenses are still coming, right? So for me, it was planning everything ahead. I needed to know, how much the business was going to. I actually budgeted the business. It was going to cost. It cost me the first year about 12,000 and some change, so almost 13,000.
Excellent.
Because I worked from home when I started.
Yeah.
So it was, my overhead was very low. Obviously, I still have personal bills that I need to kind of account for. So I had to kind of do a budget for myself overall, and figure out, like, okay, I need this much, and I need to make this much. I need to do this, and I can only afford this, and I can afford that. And planning was a key factor. And then once I got to that level that I can pay everything, then I was like, okay, now time to have fun. It's,
That's right.
now I can spend time with clients. I can spend my time finding people and getting to know them and
Yeah.
that pressure of I know a lot of people take about 2 years usually when they go solo for the first time. For me, it was about 6 months. So to me, it was like it was
So all that,
perfect. Yeah.
what's interesting then is you put a year and a half into the planning, six months into covering your expenses, where others who don't do the planning up front probably have the same time investment before they get to that water level, if you will. So interesting how the time's just encapsulated differently. But I think the fears change, right?
Yeah.
The fears go from am I going to make quota? Am I going to jump through the hoops that have been set in front of me when you're in that kind of firm, shareholder driven, profit driven environment versus am I going to cover my immediate living expenses? Am I going to be able to pick the best softwares to run a good process for myself and my clients? So the fears change, and frankly, I'd rather rely on myself than somebody else's whim, if you will. Profits down, we got to cut some people or whatever the case may be. And listen, I've seen that happen in all shapes and sizes in my career as well. And it doesn't matter the size of the company. It doesn't have to be, Ford Motor Company went through layoffs recently. Doesn't have to be a
Yeah.
Ford Motor Company to have to go through layoffs. Um, well, give me a little glimpse as to where Life Strategy Financial is headed. So you've been on this ride with really relying on yourself for a little over 3 years now. Is that an accurate timeline?
Yeah. 3 years and a half. Yeah.
Okay. So what is the next, as a planner, you've already got an idea of what that looks like in the years ahead. What does that look like for you?
Well, ultimately, it's growth, right?
Juan, hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Juan, I got to tell you, we just for those listening, we just had a break in the recording because for the first time in doing this out of my camper, a cop approached me. What are you doing
Oh.
here? Like I'm literally we were talking when I pulled in here, I've only been in here 40 anyway. So that was a new experience. So pardon me for pausing, Juan, but I figured I had to answer to law enforcement for a second there.
No, I understand. But going back to your question, so what do I see ahead? So at this point, it's growth, right? I have a lot of capacity. I don't want to get like a humongous big firm. I want to still be somewhat of a smaller firm because I want to be able to help as many people as I can, but truly help them and get to know them and know their dog names, know their kids' names, so I think if I start expanding way too much, it's going to get to a point I cannot know all my clients very well. But it will be great to have maybe a couple of people work with me.
Cool.
Obviously, at some point in time, I do need to create a path for someone to take over Life
Yeah.
Strategy Financial.
You're
So that
you're a
will
young
be,
man. You're hiding behind that beard. You're a young man.
yeah, I still have a little bit to go, but it's never too too late to start planning, right? It's about planning the future. So it's growth at this point, and at the same time, I want to have fun with it. I got the opportunity that okay, can you buy another practice, or can we give you a book of business and help you grow that fast? And part of me does not want it because it's gonna be to that point that now I cannot really truly focus on all my clients that well. So I would like to take my time actually growing. I'm
Yep.
not going to be exponentially growing so fast that I can't keep up. I want to be able to do it. And if I get to that point that, hey, I'm getting busy, I'll hire someone and I'll work with someone. I always wanted to pass, the or help someone in college, kind of like if I wish that would happen to me. So I would reach out to either Texas Tech, Texas A&M, or U of H and get someone to help me. So
Uh,
I think at this point it's just enjoy and grow and get to know my clients.
Well, you had said something earlier. The smaller, the better I can engage. I don't know. That was
Yes.
that was my scribbles on. I was writing down sound bites because you're full of them. You've given me all kinds of great like audio sound bites I can pull out of this, so I just jot them down and know where to look for them. But so along those lines, right? Now, people come into this, making a good living is not a bad thing, right? That's a good thing for people. And that's one of the great things that comes out of the environment that we're working. It's not for everybody, right?
Mhm.
But making a good living is secondary, it feels like, to supporting not only the advisors and the team around you, but also the clients that are in your care.
That
And
is
that's pretty awesome.
correct. I've
Yeah.
been told I'm cheap. My
Oh,
last ops manager said, like, you're cheap. You don't charge almost anything. Yeah, to be honest with you, Charlie, if it was up to me, if I didn't have to charge, if I didn't have to pay bills, I would do it for free. I really enjoy this.
yeah.
Obviously, I still had to pay bills, so still had to charge. And one of the things that was taught to me by my parents is that free is not free. Free is not, there's no value in free. So even if I charge a little bit, there's value on something that you're paying for. So
Yes.
to me, doing a financial plan or portfolio management, I feel like I need to charge, and I need to charge something decent.
Yeah.
But yeah, money is not really a priority for me. To me is, my clients, the communication that I can give to my clients. I can tell you that I would like to raise the level of experience probably a little bit more, because uh, I want to know everything about my clients. Right now, I only know so much, but there's so much time also that I can talk to them
Yep.
about everything else besides what they need, right? So that would be one thing that I would like to do more of. But yeah, money is not an issue for me at all.
Juan Munoz, you're awesome, man. I think you're spreading you've got such a great mindset. You're impacting a lot of lives, FPA, the universities, your clients, advisors that are lucky enough to work with you. So thank you for bringing good to financial services, and especially that RIA community. I think makes it probably a little bit easier. Listen, you'd already offered to be a resource, so you can't back out of that now.
That's
What's
perfectly fine.
what's the easiest way for someone to get in touch with you, Juan?
Phone call or email, and anybody can find me on LinkedIn. I usually accept everybody on LinkedIn, but phone call, email. You want me to give you the information live?
Yeah, sure. What's the website so they can learn more about Life Strategy Financial?
Okay, so you'll find everything on the website. So obviously www.lifestrategy.fin. So short for financial, lifestrategy.fin.com.
Awesome. Juan Munoz, thank you so much for being my guest on REA Collective today. For those of you out there who are thinking about going independent, please listen to some prior episodes. We've done some great interviews with breakaway attorneys and leaders of large firms, gentlemen like Juan, who's been at it for 3.5 years in his own shop, and lots of great experiences to draw from. This has been actually REA Collective. One, I got to tell you, has changed my outlook on financial services. I've been working in the industry for a long time, but getting these very personal stories to independence and what drove somebody in that direction, how they handled it, and everybody's different. Everybody's got a different path. Everybody's got something different they're bringing to the industry. So a lot of great learning opportunity in prior episodes. And if you know somebody who's thinking about going that way, please share this with them. And of course, on your favorite podcast episode, this is what all the people say, right? All the podcasters say, one, you got to subscribe and you got to give us a
Yeah.
review so we can get up the charts a little bit. Juan Munoz, thanks so much for being here. Life Strategy Financial. Sorry about that one.
You
Life
got it.
Strategy Financial in Greater Houston, Cypress, Texas. Thank you, man. Appreciate your insight.
Thank you, Charlie.